new details in the streaming rights battle for Warner Brothers Discovery. The New York Post is reporting that Paramount Skydance may raise its bid by as much as 10% to beat out Netflix's $72 billion offer. Sources say that Paramount Skydance founders, the father-son duo Larry and David Ellison, quote, are not going to be jerked around. The Post, writing the raised offer, which amounts to nearly $86 billion, would easily cover the $2.8 billion breakup fee, which is worth about $1 a share that Warner Brothers would face if it nixes the Netflix merger. On the legal front, the Ellisons and Redbird, their partner, are arguing not only is their deal superior because they are paying cash for the entire company, but there's little overlap with Paramount Skydance from antitrust standpoints. The Ellisons reportedly planning to wait until December 22nd to raise any bid, the same day that Warner Brothers board is scheduled to formally answer its initial pitch. Todd Pyro, when you look at these two deals, obviously the Paramount deal is richer, and if they raise it again, it's going to be that much richer. And there is serious concern about Netflix, already the dominant player in streaming, getting that much bigger.
And it's not just concern in the United States, Cheryl. I mean, there are European regulation concerns that would have to take it into consideration in this deal as well. And so what you're reading online, at least from the people that seem like they're in the know, is that this was a very creative play by the head of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, to basically extract as much money to get this escalated bid, even after the original bids were due, between Netflix and Paramount. It remains to be seen whether or not that is the case, or whether or not Warner Brothers really does want the Netflix deal for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't even say we're in the first inning of this game here, Maria. I think we're still at the opening pitch.
Ooh, okay, listen, I would personally like it to go through, just for only one reason, and that's just purely selfish. It has nothing specifically to do with, how deep I'm in specifically in terms of the market, in terms of Netflix. I don't care about that in the context of this year. I just would like to not have to purchase so many random streaming services and just have everything specifically on one service. That'll be amazing, guys.
Yeah. Well, we're watching this. We've been talking about it a lot on this program. Cheryl has reported as well on this, so we'll get back to it. But I want to bring in another voice, entertainment, business, and compliance lawyer, Seth Berensweig, with us right now. Seth, thanks very much for being here. From a legal standpoint, who should win this?
Well, I think there's a way for everyone to win this. I can say as an initial perspective that I do believe this deal is going to go through for Netflix, because there's plenty of streaming competition out there. This will not result in a monopoly or even a duopoly. So I think that at the end of the day, this is going to win. But one of the interesting creative solutions based on the president's comments yesterday that he wants to see CNN as part of a deal, we already know in terms of how the deal is structured that there's going to be a split off of the cable news units regardless. So one of the ways to be able to get to a creative solution that might make everybody reasonably happy is to split those off, give those over to Paramount, and then let the rest of the deal go through. But ultimately, I think consumers will win too, because even though prices might moderately increase, concessions will be forced. That's inevitably what happens in the background in these kinds of deals.
Well, you're making an important point here on the CNN part of this. Look, President Trump has relationships in all of this. He has a relationship with the Ellisons, obviously. They've been supporters and friends for a long time. And he also knows the CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos. But I'm wondering if, at the end of the day, this lands in, whether or not President Trump can actually move the needle, and whether or not it's going to be, at the end of the day, up to him to actually move this forward, and whether it will mean concessions, like getting a new buyer, perhaps a conservative buyer for CNN. How important do you think that will be to this deal?
Okay, bad idea. All right, sorry, I don't want to be that guy here, right? But listen, when it comes to CNN, leave CNN exactly how it is, right? No one has to like CNN, right? Understand this here, but in fact, CNN is a voice of an entire, political system. Let's just say this here. Regardless of if it is liked or not, the last thing we need in the United States of America is all media to sound the same, guys. That's it, right? That's not good for anyone, I don't think, here. And I hate CNN. Just understand this here. I'm not a CNN type of person, guys, by default. I think they're a little bit too emotional over there. But it is representative of a gigantic portion of the United States of America, and I'm not sure we should take that specifically from them.
Concessions are not uncommon in these kinds of situations, and that's a way to make the regulators happy. You raise a very interesting point. If the president leans in here and then the regulators might just go on antitrust light mode, that would be a way to look at it, because I still think there's plenty of competition, but there are ways to provide for different kinds of concessions. There can be concessions relative to theaters. There can be an understanding that these creative content mechanisms won't be pulled prematurely out of theaters, so that that industry can be accommodated. And there are ways for consumers to win on this as well, by the way, because there are creative, efficient bundles that will come in. That's inevitably going to be part of the conversation. So I think there could really be a win-win here. There is going to be an impetus in the industry for preemptive consolidation. There's definitely going to be pressure on that. But given where we are in the market right now, there really could be a way to have this be productive, not only for the companies and the shareholders, but for consumers as well.
Well, look, this is not just about, CNN and personalities here. I mean, let's talk about really what the DOJ is going to look at. Because, yes, the other day, President Trump said that, it's imperative that CNN be sold. Here's what the president said the other day. Watch this.
I will be probably involved, maybe involved in the decision. It depends. You have some good companies bidding on it. I think the people that have run CNN for the last long period of time are a disgrace. I think it's imperative that CNN be sold, because you certainly wouldn't want to put people, just leave those people with some money, good money, and CNN. So I wouldn't want to see the same company end up with CNN, the same company with money, because right now they don't have too much money. But they have value, I guess, based on the bids. They've got value.
They have a gigantic market share.
I think CNN should be sold.
I mean, look, Seth, you can read into that any way you want. The New York Post called this, quote, a signal that Trump prefers an offer by Paramount Skydance to purchase Warner Brothers last week after the bid from Netflix came in. But when you look at actually what the DOJ is actually going to be focused on, that's what I really want to get to, because streaming is an enormous business. That's where the growth in this media is. And the DOJ is going to examine whether consumers will actually, at the end of the day, face higher prices. Do you have one dominant player, Netflix, Warner Brothers, so dominant that they will be able to raise prices on consumers at a time that President Trump is focused on affordability? He's not going to like that. That's one. Key in this pricing bundling analysis is also whether YouTube, which is the #1 viewership on connected televisions, and traditional pay TV service actually discipline and actually impact whether or not Netflix will be able to raise prices. And then there's, are they going to withhold Warner Brothers content from rival video distributors? These are all things that the DOJ is going to look at. And you weigh in.
You know they're going to do that.
Where on all of that?
Look at Disney.
I like the president's perspective on this. I think it's really, isn't it refreshing to have a president that is able to provide actual substantive input from an M&A perspective here in Washington? It's very refreshing, and I agree with him. I think that there's a lot that can be done. The more that the president leans in and sees a mechanism to a clean deal, the more he's going to encourage the regulators to let this through, which I think it should occur, because that's what we talked about in terms of where we are in the streaming industry. But if you take a look at David Ellison at Paramount, he's already done some good works on this. I know that sometimes he gets a little bit knocked because he's perhaps younger than some of the other CEOs in this space. But look what he's done with CBS and with the free press. That could be a very positive impact. So when you take a look at the aggregate of all the factors that are coming into the marketplace and all the drama that's increasing here in Washington, just yesterday, not only did President Trump chime in, but we learned that the House Subcommittee on Antitrust is going to be having hearings in January. The temperature in the room is going to heat up. But the president's role in this will be very interesting and important. And you could see an elegant solution where the cable TV assets get spun off to Paramount and the consumers can still win. Even if prices go up slightly, when you balance it all out in this, in the entire ecospace of this system, it could really be a win-win for everyone. And I like how the president is coming in and he's taking some substantive leadership on this deal.
Yeah. Well, look, if Paramount would do that, if Paramount would actually accept just doing, you know, buying CNN and the networks, because the real gem here is the streaming business. And by the way, they're also going to look at content creators,
monetary gem.
Because I remember the Penguin Random House merger. The DOJ blocked that merger because it was likely to harm book authors, they said. I wonder if you can look at that here when you're looking at content creators on the digital space. Lots to swallow and look at here. Seth, we'll keep a spotlight on it. Good to talk with you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, guys, hold on. Yeah, content creators, there's some of them out there who constantly are getting like headhunted specifically by these gigantic media conglomerates, guys. In fact, I think that's all I can say about that, right? That specific thing. But yeah, it's a thing that happens, it exists, and they offer an absurd amount of money to basically be able to kind of govern what you say by basically utilizing your image, if that makes any sense here. But they definitely are offering crazy, like life-changing type of money, guys. That's just what they do here. Now, here's the thing. When it comes down to like some of these mergers, it would be great if we could actually bring together like a good amount of these streaming services kind of into one type of thing. So the actual overall consumer would actually benefit from it. Let's just say this year. But that's if we don't allow it to be a monopoly, because once we do that, then what happens is they double the price on us, guys. That's just the reality, I would say. Long term, at least, we would be spending a lot more money than we already are. And I'm sure most people are spending too much money already on streaming here. Now, in terms of CNN, regardless of my overall opinion specifically on CNN and their network and kind of what they tend to deliver and promote and who they tend to ostracize, at least, I would leave it just like how it is, because again, they do represent a gigantic portion of the United States of America, and regardless of whatever they're pushing specifically, it is representative of a gigantic community, right? And once you start taking away like the ability for some of the niche subgroups in the United States of America to have an outlet, I don't really want to see how that looks, right? We move further towards an autocracy. I'm not sure that we specifically want to be anywhere near that type of scenario, at least. There's some who do. There's some who want that, but yeah, nah, guys. I like people having the ability to have different theories and thoughts and places to express themselves other than the things that I specifically mentally adhere to, at least. Right? But that's just me. So you could think differently. It's fine. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.